This is Mark's Washington Make the Cut with the debut episode of In This Corner. This is a show that's going to talk about what's going on in boxing. And this is the perfect week for episode 1, as it is fight week for Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant. So these two started off the tour with fireworks as there was an exchange of punches at the initial press conference. I can tell you today at the press conference leading up to this Saturday's fight, it was much more calm. But this is a defining fight for Canelo Alvarez. Alvarez has been cruising his last few fights since the 2 Triple G fights. Now, I'll give you, if you want to argue a little bit, that the Danny Jacob fights, he didn't necessarily cruise in. He won by unanimous decisions, but a couple of those scorecards were close. But that's a conversation for another time. We're here to talk about Canelo and Plant. So the pressure really is on Plant, because the question is how does he beat someone who is considered pound to pound the best fighter right now in the world? And it's going to start off with movement. He's going to have to move. Use every inch of that ring if you have to. And to get Canelo to start thinking about cutting off the ring. Hopefully that would mean that Canelo would not be as active, because he'd be concerned about getting those angles that he would like to get his punches off and to get his offense off. Plant, it cannot only be movement. It would have to be movement. He has quick hands. He's going to have to jab, and that jab is going to have to be doubling up, tripling up. And then if he throws the jab, it's got to be a hard one. If he's not going to throw a hard jab, then there has to be something behind it. It can't be a jab for the sake of a jab if there's not something behind it, if he wants to really make an impact against Canelo. One of the other factors is he has to stay off the ropes. If he can stay off the ropes, unlike some of Canelo's opponents, he limits what Canelo can do as far as those power punches. And this other thing is he has to find a way to get Canelo to the ropes. It's very difficult. It's easier said than done. But he has to get him to the ropes. And if he does get Canelo's back against the ropes, he has to be active. Last but not least, he's got to make this fight an ugly one. And I'm not talking about being dirty. I'm talking about what Maidana did that first fight against Floyd Mayweather, where he made Floyd at times feel and look uncomfortable. And that's what Caleb Plant is going to have to do. He's going to have to find a way to make Canelo feel uncomfortable, look uncomfortable, and be uncomfortable. And that's going to have to be, you got to muck it up. You just got to make it one of these street fights the way that Maidana made it against Mayweather. Because when we talk about technical, as good as a technical fighter as Caleb Plant is, we all know that that Canelo is a better technical fighter. Now, the type of fights that I know that Canelo has struggled with, they were earlier in his career. There was the fight against Lara, which he got by a gift because Lara really won that fight. And Floyd Mayweather just absolutely positively outclassed him. But now Canelo has learned from that. And I don't know if that, unless you're a superior boxer, someone maybe like Andrade, someone that Canelo is absolutely positively avoiding, I don't know if you can beat him that way. So predictions for Saturday night, look, I'm not sure whether Plant can beat Canelo by decision, because it's just hard to get that many rounds against Canelo. Flip side is, I don't know if he can hurt Canelo or have the opportunities to hurt Canelo. So if that's the case, then it leaves me no choice but to go with Canelo by decision. I think it'll be close. 115, 113, maybe a 116, 112, but with close rounds, that type of scorecard. But I can't see Plant winning the fight, because I can't see Plant hurting Canelo, and I can't see him getting a decision out there in Vegas. So again, great fight. We know the importance of the fight for both of these fighters. But, again, my prediction is Canelo. When we come back, we're going to talk about the fights from last week, including the one that we covered live at Madison Square Garden. I'll be back in a second. You are watching In This Corner with Marcus Washington. Welcome back to In This Corner. So last weekend, I was covering the Jose Vargas fight, what ended up being another one of those fights where there's a lot of fireworks at the press conference, a lot of punches thrown. Zepeda ended up losing his brother out of his corner because he ended up being suspended by the New York State Athletic Commission. But it didn't matter. Zepeda came out there very, very focused and capitalized off Vargas's first mistake of the first round, where he came in, swung wildly, had his head down, got caught with an overhand left by Zepeda. Vargas hits the canvas. He gets up, but he gets up and he's wobbling, and you know it's only a matter of time. They end up stopping the fight. It lasted for about a minute and 45 seconds. So that was the main event, but the co-main event ended up almost stealing the show with Jonas Sultan and Carlos Caraballo, where there was 5 combined knockdowns with both fighters going down in the third round. That's how exciting it was. Sultan pulled off the upset, and what was so crucial about all of the knockdowns was, even though Sultan had 4 out of the 5 knockdowns, he won by 1 point on each of the judges' scorecards, 94 and 93 on all 3 judges' scorecards. Personally, I had it 95-92 for Sultan. We had 1 round difference between me and the official scorecards. Sultan, I think, definitely won the fight no matter what your scorecard looked like. But Caraballo was so good in those rounds where he didn't get knocked out. And that was a big question about his chin. This was really his toughest fight. He was undefeated coming into the fight, and his chin got tested. I didn't think any of Sultan's punches were one of those punches where it sent, Caraballo crashing to the canvas. That wasn't the case. There were flash knockdowns. So he's going to have to go back and fix that. For Sultan to win a fight like this was incredible for him. And so that ended up being the best fight, definitely, of that night. Some of the undercards that was on ESPN Plus before the ESPN broadcast, a couple guys lost their O. There was a controversial majority decision where another guy could have lost his O. Very good fight at Madison Square Garden. But that wasn't the only card last Saturday. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Showtime PBC card, where we saw yet another upset in boxing. This is Marcus Washington with In This Corner. Welcome back to In This Corner. Like I said, last week there was another great card on. It was Showtime card, PBC, with Jamal James against Radzhab Butaev as their main event, where, like I said, there was another upset. James came out and he started out great, moving, controlling distance, throwing that jab, fighting like he was the tall fighter. But I thought that fight changed in the third round, ironically enough, when James had some success kind of anchoring, getting inside, exchanging some punches with Butaev, and it was almost like it was fool's gold. Yeah, in the third round, it worked out very well for him. After that, it did not work out very well for him. Butaev got behind his own jab as James started to slow down a little bit. Butaev was able to get inside, was throwing punches in bunches, and flat out ended up getting a stoppage in the 9th round. I thought it was a little bit of a quick stoppage, but James really didn't complain to after the fight. Now, he did complain after the fight. He didn't complain at that moment, or it didn't get caught on camera that he complained at that moment. Either way, it was one of the upsets on a night where, probably just like I talked about the co-main event in the Zepeda-Vargas card, the co-main event here where Boots Ennis stole the show with a first round knockout over Thomas Delorme. Like I said, first round, Boots was just so dominant. Came out there, the first knockdown came. Delorme claimed it was in the back of the head. I don't think it was an illegal punch. So Boots Ennis ends up with a first round knockout in probably the most exciting fight on that card. The other event that was on the Showtime card had Michelle Rivera with a very impressive win over Matias Romero. Rivera stayed behind the jab. I know he's the Muhammad Ali wannabe, puts Ali on his shorts and everything. That's a little disturbing to me. But what he is a good fighter. He just stayed patient throughout that fight. Romero was a tough out, or is a tough out, but he was able to stay behind the jab. Again, use combinations, kept Romero very at bay until probably like the 6th or 7th round. And Romero tried his thing was he was going to fight hard the last 30 seconds, try to steal rounds, which didn't work. On all 3 scorecards, Rivera won 100-90. So it didn't work for Romero, and obviously we're going to watch Rivera as he goes on to hopefully get his first really big fight soon. So again, first episode of In This Corner. It was great to be here. Check us out. We're going to periodically have this show. Later on, we're going to have guests come on to talk about major bouts that will be coming up in the near future in relation to that show. But again, to cap off how we started the show, it is Canelo against Plant this weekend. Pay-per-view, big fight. Again, I have Canelo winning by decision. If you have your opinion or you agree, disagree, hit me up on Twitter at MTC with Mook and give us your opinion. Or obviously, you can also follow me on Twitter. We will be having live updates throughout that fight card, and we will have a post-fight wrap-up. So get me on Twitter, get me on social media, and that will give you all of the information. So again, great episode 1. Follow me at MTC with Mook, and you guys have a great evening.